Now, page 4, rooting for Harry Joe Biden. I'm for Joe. No, really, I am. I want him to win the Democrat nomination for president. Hopefully, Biden can revive his struggling campaign, maybe find his inner voice or outer voice, whatever, and figure out a way to connect with a majority of Democrat voters. However, in order to do this, Biden has got to come up with some kind of salient message. And that message cannot be 8 more years of Barack Obama, which is kind of what he's suggesting thus far. 8 more years of DACA, 8 more years of dividing America, 8 more years of running roughshod over the United States Constitution. Oh boy. The problem is Biden is not Obama. He's not slick. He's not a disciple of Saul Alinsky. Biden is Biden, a creature of both the Washington, D.C. swamp and the Capitol Hill establishment. He's got to figure out a way of delivering a message that is more engaging than, hey, I've been in the nation's capital living off taxpayers since the 1970s. Right now, Biden has no compelling message. But if he can find his voice, then maybe he wins. Now, the reason I am pulling for old Harry Joe is not because I want him to be president. No, far from it. Biden would be a horrible president. He'd be right up there with Jimmy Carter. I want whoever the Democrat nominee is to lose badly in November to Donald Trump. But the reason I'm rooting for Sloppy Joe to win the Democrat nomination is because he's not Bernie Sanders. Joe is not a raging Marxist socialist. Sanders is. My hope is that Sanders is just a shooting star across the American galaxy who will fizzle out as the Democrats approach their zenith, the nominating convention in July in Milwaukee. If Democrat voters reject Sanders and his love affair with genocidal dictators, then there truly might be hope for the future. Clearly, the modern Democrat Party bottoming out right now with Sanders as the leading candidate. Hopefully, Democrat voters will see Sanders for who and what he truly is, an ideological carnival barker who's hawking political snake oil that is antithetical to the United States Constitution. And if Sanders is vanquished, then maybe, just maybe, his radical anti-liberty policies will fade into the sunset right along with him. In other words, if Sanders loses, then America wins. That is why I'm rooting for Harry Joe Biden. However, it's the opposite reason that South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn endorsed the former vice president.
I am fearful for the future of this country.
Stop tape. I'm fearful too, Congressman, very, very fearful. When the modern Democrat Party has swung so far to the radical left and so deep into socialism that the modern Communist Party of America doesn't even nominate anybody to run for president. Instead, they recommend voting for Bernie Sanders as the head or the president of the United States Communist Party did in 2016 and will no doubt do in 2020. That scares the living daylights out of me because it tells me now that the modern Democrat Party has effectively morphed not only into the Socialist Party of America, but is now heading toward the Communist Party of America. And these snake oil salesmen, like Bernie Sanders, are able to do well. How in the world is Bernie Sanders even getting traction in the Democrat Party, modern or not? Even in the old Democrat Party, certainly wouldn't have gotten where he is today. But how is he getting traction as an independent? Even if he was a so-called moderate Democrat, why in the world is the Democrat Party allowing a non-registered Democrat to hijack its party and hijack its policies and hijack its philosophies? Remember in 2016, 4 short years ago, Bernie Sanders was out there against Hillary Clinton running around the country yelling for Medicare for all. And even Hillary said that was a, quote, radical idea. 4 years later, every single one of the Democrat candidates for president is hawking some kind of Medicare for all. In other words, they've fallen in line with the Bernie Sanders policy. In other words, again, Bernie Sanders is now driving the modern policy of the modern Democrat Party. And so this is the real dilemma for the Democrat Party. They've allowed a non-registered Democrat to hijack the party and hijack the agenda of the party, and he's driving it so far off a cliff to the left that the party may not be able to ever recover. And so even if Bernie Sanders loses and Bernie Sanders does not get the Democrat nomination, what has he done indelibly to the modern Democrat Party? He has shifted the policies well beyond even socialism and into Marxist socialism, into the Communist Party of America. And so this is the real risk for the Democrat Party, that they're going to lose touch with voters. And we'll find out over the next 3 weeks as we go through the primary process if the modern Democrat voters are going to continue to accept this radical who's got radical ideas, not only his love affair for these genocidal maniacs and Fidel Castro and I'm sure Karl Marx, as well as Joseph Stalin. I'm sure Mao is on his, got a couple of posters of Mao at his various homes around the country. But the fact that he's proposing what amounts to a takeover of the federal government and institutionalizing socialism in our society. Is that really where the modern Democrat Party wants to be? So after the election of 2020, whether there is a Bernie Sanders victory in the nomination process or not, they're going to have to do some real deep soul searching and figuring out who is the head of the modern Democrat Party and where that head wants to take the party. Because right now, Bernie Sanders, the, quote, independent from Vermont, is the head of the modern Democrat Party. He's driving the agenda. He is the driving force right now, and he's doing so just as a Marxist socialist would. This is how they act. They take things over. They plunder. They don't ask, they just take, and that's what Bernie Sanders has done. He has taken his position rooted his position within the modern Democrat Party right now, and it's going to be very difficult to uproot him, win or lose. It's going to be very difficult to uproot him because even if he's not the nominee, remember, he's got millions and millions of followers, unfortunately, and so he's got a lot of power and a lot of influence on the Democrat agenda. So whoever the nominee is, even if it's Harry Joe Biden, they're going to have to swallow a lot of the Bernie Sanders radical ideology and proposals. So right now, the goal of the Democrat voters is overwhelmingly any candidate they think they can beat President Trump, right? The problem is Bernie Sanders is not just any candidate. He's a very conspicuous ideological cancer that is spreading through this republic. And if Biden takes the nomination away from Sanders, then the spread of the disease of Marxist socialism has a chance of being headed toward political remission.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.